is just making his way onto the chair. Brother Jagjitji is a very accomplished speaker, a very knowledgeable individual. So we'll be enjoying his thoughts a little bit later on. I think if I could perhaps ask Brother, if I could ask Gurdeep Rupraji to come forward and share his thoughts firstly. And Gurdeepji has a poem for us. So, as Gurdeepji makes his way forward, again, we can see the hall filling up. If I could also make a couple of announcements, that if I could kindly ask you to either put your phones on silent or switch them off, so as not to interrupt the proceedings, so we can hear all the words. And now we'll have Gurdeepji, and after them, I would like to ask if Raulji from London could also make his way forward. Okay. All right. We now have Roy with us, so Roy will be sharing his song. And after Roy, I would like to ask Gurdeepji to be ready. Thank you, Roy.
Actually, I do apologize. I do apologise for not being here. I was having breakfast. Sorry about that. Okay, the song I'm going to sing briefly is entitled Unity in Community, and I actually wrote this specifically for this forum on that theme of unity in community, and I'd like to share that with you now. For the neighbor who don't treat you right, we need unity in the community. We need unity in the community. We need unity, yeah, in the community, yeah. God, Allah, Buddha, Ali, Selassie, Jehovah. Whatever your faith, religion or order, yeah. Church, temple, mosque, gurdwara, cathedral. We all must unite as one people. That's why we need unity in the community. We need unity in the community. We need unity, yeah, in the community. Yeah. Put down your guns, put down your bombs, gangs, put down your knives. We've got to unite. That's why we need unity. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, we need unity in the community. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We got to get together. We've got to unite. All right, we got to get together. All right, get together now. Oh, 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 unity in the community. Oh, unity in the community. We need unity, yeah, in the community. Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh,
Thank you very much, Roy. What a wonderful start to this Samagam, unity in the community. That is the ultimate goal, isn't it? That's what we're trying to achieve. And through tolerance, that is definitely one of the way forwards in achieving this. I came across a quote from Martin Luther King, which I think very nicely summarizes this point, that we must learn to live together as brothers or perish as fools. And how true this is. If we don't learn to live together, we will surely perish. For more wise words, now I'd like to turn to Gurdeepji to come forward. Young poet, very, very wise words from this young man. And very eloquently, he'll put his words together. And after Gurdeepji, I'd like to request Raulji from London to give his thoughts.
Brothers and sisters, please say it one loving voice, Sant Nirankari. Haven't you heard? Impossible is just a word. Maybe one day, intolerance will be absurd. And you can put dragonflies on the moon. You can tear the eye from the hurricane's womb. You can change the direction of Halley's comet. Use electricity as ink to write a Shakespeare sonnet. Haven't you heard? Impossible is just a word. Maybe one day, tolerance will be observed. Barriers of religion, race, and nationality, replace them all with logic and rationality. Your soul is a poet, they'll try to cordon your rhyme. When you see past the hate, you broaden your mind. Hating another person is like the moon hating the sky. We all live in oneness, it's like the mouth hating the eye. Hate isn't natural, it cannot be done. When we realize that we are all one. Why live in darkness when we can be brighter than the sun? Haven't you heard? Impossible is just a word. Maybe one day, intolerance will be absurd. And you can put dragonflies on the moon. You can tear the eye from the hurricane's womb. You can change the direction of Halley's comet. Use electricity as ink to write a Shakespeare sonnet. Haven't you heard? Impossible is just a word. Maybe one day, tolerance will be observed. We've reached the moon. 239,000 miles is the distance apart. Then how hard can it be to reach a distant heart? Existence starts when we realize peace is a priority. That's why we're promoting tolerance within society. And they used to say that the 4-minute mile can never be run, and that the earth is flat and you'll fall into the sun. But look at us now, humanity at its best, cultures united from the east and the west. Haven't you heard? Impossible is just a word. Maybe one day, intolerance will be absurd. And you can plant your tree on a distant star, capture a supernova inside of a jar. You can drink the darkness and produce your light. Use thunder as paint to draw the night. Haven't you heard? Impossible is just a word. Maybe one day, tolerance will be observed. Imagination is life. Imagine a nation where tolerance is rife, where we live by our humanity rather than live by the knife, where we've come to know that our differences are the same. 7 billion people separated by a name. Our blood is the same color, we breathe the same air. There's wars and hatred, but some of us still care. Let's bring tolerance within society. We're all peas in a pod. Let's realize brotherhood of man through fatherhood of God. Haven't you heard? Impossible is just a word. Maybe one day, intolerance will be absurd, and you can plant your tree on a distant star, capture a supernova inside of a jar. You can drink the darkness and produce your light. Use thunder as paint to draw the night. And you can put dragonflies on the moon. You can tear the eye from the hurricane's womb. You can change the direction of Halley's comet. Use electricity as ink to write a Shakespeare sonnet. Haven't you heard? Impossible is just a word. Maybe one day, tolerance will be observed. Maybe one day, intolerance will just be a word. Say it, one loving voice.
Sant Nirankari, thank you, Gurdeepji. That was a wonderful poem. Hopefully, impossible is just a word. Gurdeepji spoke about sort of barriers in society, and that reminded me of an example that the head of the Sant Nirankari mission, His Holiness Satguru Baba Hardev Singh Ji, once gave, that when we view a map, we see different countries and we see the borders of those countries. Now, some people see the borders of a country as where one country stops and another country starts. But what His Holiness said to us, we can view it that way, or we can view it the other way. That's where two countries meet. That's where two countries join together. And that also goes along the lines of tolerance and understanding. And thank you, Gurdeep Ji. This was what he was saying in his poem. I'd now like to ask Raulji to come forward and share his thoughts. He will be speaking on what and why is tolerance needed. Thank you.
Saint say one living voice, Dan and Gaji. What and why is tolerance needed? Now, if you think about the world as it is, it's full of diversity, full of, if you look at the ego perspective, it's full of differences. And when we look at this diversity, we understand that there are different religions. So we have Hinduism, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, and then we have different cultures from our regions to our country. We have a localized culture, a regional culture. So we have many forms of diversity, and we have a choice that either we can be in conflict or we can learn to tolerate it, or tolerate other people's differences and their ways and their traditions, and have a sense of acceptance. And when we have conflict, as you can see, it does not have a good impact on the world. We see wars, we see fights, whether they're in the community or in society as a large. We see differences in political structures, we see differences in economic structures. And when these differences appear, how we respond to that is up to us as individuals. And therefore, how we respond as an individual can impact society. So when I look at things and I see that other people are different to me, I can just do that by sitting on the train and I'm going to work. And in London, it's full of people who are different. You'll never see someone who is the same, or someone that you feel you can relate to straight away. And sometimes you have to give up your seat for someone, or little things like that. And you wonder to yourself, should I really have to give up my seat? I don't really want to. And you kind of have this conflict within. But then something triggers, and you see that the other person is needing that seat. So whether that person is disabled or they're pregnant, and you realize that actually you look at the bigger perspective. So what happens in that moment is the reason why tolerance is needed. We have awareness. We have this intrinsic intelligence that tells us that other people we need to put before us, before me. And when you have that, then you understand that actually that person needs a seat more than I do. I can stand up, my legs are fine, there's no problem with me. And if you want to look at it in a spiritual way, it's a bit of yoga if you have to stand up. So it's up to you how you want to see it. And so for me, why tolerance is needed today especially is because we are living in a kind of in an era where social media is going forward, and you can easily have conflict within a second, and you can whether it's the Oscar selfie, some people can't even tolerate that. They have to create a massive story about it and say how it's bad, and you're thinking to yourself, actually it doesn't matter to me, because it's these people who are doing this selfie, they're celebrating their time there, and I should be feeling that sense of celebration with them. And that's what tolerance, I feel, does in the initial stages of the spiritual process. And the main reason why tolerance is needed, I feel, is that it's a step towards our evolution in spirituality. And that step that I feel that when you learn tolerance and it's within you, and when it's settled within you, then something happens. I feel that tolerance is then evolved. Tolerance then becomes acceptance. And what happens with acceptance, I feel that you see that everyone is the same as you. The same light that is within you is within me. That there is some unseen connection between me and you. And not only between people, but between animals, plants, the planet itself, the universe itself. From the farthest star to the blade of grass, you feel connected. And then tolerance is a natural thing in the spiritual process. And what happens after that is acceptance. And I feel that today we need to learn to accept more than anything. And acceptance can only occur if we are tolerant in the beginning, so we can then have a little bridge of understanding of why people are different. And now we have that choice today, if we want to celebrate it or use it for a cause of war and destruction. So, as I conclude my words, I want to express firstly that, as an individual, I need to learn that other people are different to me, and other people have a right to be different to me. And I think to myself, if everyone was the same, how boring would life be? If everyone was a robotic copy of you, you would be bored with life. You would be bored with yourself, because there's nothing but yourself when you're looking at it. But because people are different, and you see that the manifestation that they are of, and that manifestation or that unseen creator has allowed that manifestation to be different, you learn that actually it's brilliant. This whole creation is beautiful. And you feel grateful, and you feel full of gratitude. And I feel that this is what tolerance kind of builds us up to do. And I pray to the Almighty that I can actually be more tolerant, so I can learn to understand and then accept and do exactly what the spiritual masters want me to do. So, say one loving voice.
Sant Nirankari, thank you, Raulji. Such wise words, such deep thoughts about acceptance. And that's a very fundamental thing that we need to retain, that we can only have tolerance if we accept those around us. I'd like to request Lalita ji to come forward and share one of her wonderful songs with us. And as she makes her way to the stage, we've got a few announcements. We have, for those of you that haven't been to the reception area as yet, please, after the congregation, if you could, please do go and have a look. We've got some wonderful piece of work out there, and also the Universal Target Journal is out there as well. I have been given a copy to parade in front of you as well. It's full of really wonderful articles and poems and thoughts about, really about what we discuss here, about sort of the society and spirituality. So it'd be really good if you do get the time just to have a quick look, maybe register your interest and pick up a copy as well. Now, as I requested, Lalita ji will be singing a wonderful composition of hers, and after her, I would like to request Sangeeta ji from the West Midlands also to be ready.
Saints in one loving voice. to make mountains fall. But if I let go, then I am nothing at all. If I can give away everything I possess, but left without love, I have no happiness. I know I'm not perfect and not without sin, but now that I'm older, all childish things end. Ooh, ooh, yeah. I'll never be jealous, and I won't be too proud, 'cause love is not boastful. Oh, and love is not loud. I know I need this, I know I do, and everything is gonna be alright. Ooh. Let me be patient, let me be kind, make me unselfish without being blind. Though I may suffer, I'll deny and endure what comes, 'cause that's all that I've got. Cause that's all that I've got. Saints, they one living voice.
Sant Nirankari. Thank you, Lalita-ji. It's a wonderful voice, wonderful hymn. Again, sharing with us about tolerance in our minds, having peace of mind. Before Sangeeta-ji, we will have a wonderful video that's been prepared by Priya Chauhanji from London that is really nice. I had the opportunity of having a look at it before, and it's a wonderful collection of thoughts from around the world about what tolerance is. So I'd like firstly if we could have a look at the video, and then after the Sangeeta-ji. Just as they're prepping the video, a few more announcements that we will be hearing some wonderful words today on spirituality, about tolerance, about living in general in this world. If anyone wishes to find out more, in the conference room, which is just sort of at the front, just near reception, there'll be sort of tea and coffee for anyone who wants to sit down and talk with some of the other members. We'll be able to explain a little bit more about our philosophy and what, as the Sant Nirankari mission, what we are doing and what we are trying to achieve. So now, without further delay, I'd like to present to you a video about tolerance.
When we are angry at mankind,
when we would curse the behavior of a kind,
or rave at some depravity of mind, argue rather than to be benign,
when choosing not to understand,
not to engage,
with that from which we isolate ourselves,
With understanding. 2. Where perhaps is needed help.
paper,
Reason may just find the time.
with dailiness to enter into our mind.
and so it is perhaps from loss of our own faith.
We are so quick to shout at their disgrace. but we should not lose sight of ourselves.
For it is not all of nature in this life.
Good. The best.
The lesson of love, of humility, of togetherness, of compassion, of tolerance.
As nature, this is how such things will be.
It's not how loud we shout, but what we see.
Different colors.
Dressed appear they in.
And seeing do to help to liberate.
To free with tolerance, not to shut the gate.
That is how life should be.
Tolerance leads to peaceful coexistence.
Peace, not pieces.
To become tolerant.
To imbibe tolerance.
Tolerance by Egan Bohan and created by the people of Kuwait.
It's a wonderful video. They're sharing sort of thoughts about tolerance and accepting things from different cultures. Just very quickly, a short example. At work, one of my colleagues, this was a number of years ago, she was pregnant with a second child, and they were having a discussion, her and her husband. They were thinking about names, and they're sort of from the Protestant faith, the Roman Catholic faith, and they were thinking about sort of names they could give to their child, and they knew they were having a boy. And my colleague, she asked her eldest son, "What do you think? What kind of name would you like for your little brother?" And he said, "I've got two names in mind. The first name is Mark." And she thought that's a good, strong Christian Catholic name. That's wonderful. "And what about the second name?" And her son replied to her, "It also begins with an M, and it's the name of my best friend." And she thought, "That's really lovely." And he said, "Yes, Mohammed." And it raised a chuckle, it raised a laugh, but this is tolerance, this is acceptance, this is viewing ourselves as one global society. And this is what it means to accept those around us from whatever background. And this is what we're trying to achieve. As I requested, I have Sangeeta ji, whose topic is how to cultivate tolerance. And after Sangeeta ji, I'd like to ask Vibhati ji and Sam Diolji to be ready.
Dearest saints, please say with love, Sant Nirankari. I have to admit, this topic and theme of tolerance put me to shame, really. Because if anything, I've been really, really intolerant over the last few months in particular due to my pregnancy. And my poor husband, Vish, has had to endure a lot. From his minty toothbrush breath, I couldn't stand that. Couldn't stand his aftershaves. And as we know, intolerance behavior, it leads to irrational behavior. And he reminds me that at one point I said to him, "Vish, really seriously, if you want to stay married to me, you will never bring mackerel fish into the house again." And I was dead serious about this. So forget adultery or anything else, but the mackerel fish was the one that was going to do it. Bless him. He's had to tolerate a lot recently, tolerate my intolerances, and I'm really grateful for the strength that he's had to do that. But health issues, pregnancy excuses aside, looking deep inside myself, how do I, if I do ever exercise tolerance, what steps do I take? Well, I've had to look into myself and think, well, what is it that makes me so intolerant, pregnancy aside? Well, it's harsh words, really. Sarcastic comments, that's what does it for me. People's remarks, sometimes a personality just does not sit well with me. And what happens? Well, I want that situation to change. I want that person to change. I want them to stop speaking and saying what they are. And well, it doesn't happen. So what happens? You endure, you take certain level, time after time, but then there reaches a breaking point. I'm talking about myself. Breaking point, what happens? I'm not going to tolerate it anymore. So either I'll tell that person, this is what you're saying you're doing, not happy, not pleased, and before I know it, there's a breakdown in communication, breakdown in relationship. My peace of mind is lost, I'm disturbed. There might be a point where I might not say anything to that person, but I want to avoid them. So every time I see them going by, I'm reminded, oh, they make me feel like this. Again, I'm disturbed, peace of mind gone, and I'm not wanting to speak to them. Either way, I'm trying to stop that intolerance, but actually it's already there. And I'm reminded of that great inspirational leader, Mahatma Gandhi, who says, be the change that you wish to see in others. Be that change. Well, I can't expect them to change all the time. I can't expect others to change, but I can do something about myself. And that change goes into my behavior, the way I perceive people, the way I perceive intolerable behavior. And the one person who really inspired me to think deeper along those lines was a great professor, late Professor Burisab ji from Chicago. And it was around the early 1990s, almost 20 years ago, and I had some time with him. And I said, you know, Professor, how do you be civil and respectful towards somebody who's giving you a load of, you know, is being quite rude and upsetting towards you? How is it possible to be tolerant of them? And being the practical person that Professor G was, he said, right, you're feeling that way, but have you ever thought about where they are coming from? What is it that's making that person behave the way that they're behaving? Look at things from their point of view. Put yourself in their shoes. Has there been a misunderstanding that you weren't aware of? Or do they feel that they're justified? Or are they completely oblivious of the fact that it's causing this reaction within you? Now, this method of trying to understand somebody means that you end up accepting what's going on. And through understanding and the acceptance comes tolerance. And this method really, really has helped me so much throughout those last 20 years. And it still does to a certain extent. But I have to admit, with that method, it's far easier to implement with friends, with family members, with your loved ones. And when I think about that, why is it? Well, Puja Mataji, His Holiness's wife, she says if you really want to love someone, it means that you accept them completely. So thinking about the understanding and acceptance and tolerance coming from love, well, yes, it's easier because I love my friends, I love my family, and I want to work harder to retain and maintain that relationship. But what about when it comes to other people, like work colleagues, your boss at work? How about the unhelpful shop assistant? Or the rude waiter, waitress? How are we able to love them or tolerate them? Where's the acceptance? Where's the understanding? And what about when all your reason, your logic, your rationale, everything fails and you just can't find any excuse or any justification for that intolerable behavior? What then? Back to square one, you snap, breakdown of communication, breakdown of relationship, you're disturbed, there's hurt, there's frustration, there's anger, and all the other negativities that come with it. So although that method works to a certain extent, it's actually limited. Tolerance is limited. So then I think harder and deeper within myself, okay, well, what do I do then? What method do I employ when that method doesn't quite work? There must be another method which is not limited to the mind's justifications, to the logic and rationale. The method for me is the spiritual method. That works far, far better. Tapping into the super self, it gives unlimited strength and amounts of tolerance. Because the super self, in other words, the spiritual being, it's far greater than the mind's logic. And it's greater than the ways that the mind understands others as well. You see, as spiritual beings have the potential to endure, accept, and love. And that acceptance, that love, is not limited or conditioned, but it's actually limitless. And how? Well, through the revelation of God consciousness, I become aware of my true entity, which is the limitless, formless energy, Nirankar. Some know it as God or the higher frequency. Being aware of my true essence, the source of all goodness, I connect to its unlimited positive traits. And those traits are of compassion, unlimited compassion, forgiveness, patience, tolerance, broad-mindedness. The list is endless. And that connection provides me with a self-assured humility, because it reminds me of that which is greater than myself. And this trait of humility is key to eliminating the root cause of intolerance. The root cause of my intolerance is it's my own pride, my own ego, which causes anger, impatience, frustration, and all the other negativities. And what that connection does, and that humility does, is go to the root cause of it, and it just eliminates it completely. I'll share an example with you where this method really helped me in my life. Some years ago, as a trainee solicitor at work, I was asked to do some work by one of the partners in a department. And I'd done the work, next morning, fine, it was ready to submit. But for some reason, this partner was shouting and screaming at the top of his voice. And imagine an open plan department, probably half the size of this hall, with at least 50 employees. Everybody can hear. Red in the face he is, angry, shouting at me, saying, "You've lost this piece of work. Are you thick?" Yes, I had some abuse thrown at me, really some horrible words thrown at me. And it wasn't my fault. I'd done the work. Nothing I'd done what he was accusing me of. So he's shouting and screaming and saying all these things, really hurling out the abuse in front of everybody. So you can see the potential of how humiliating and embarrassing this experience could have been for me. So how did I react to it? Did I run to the toilets, cry my eyes out? That was one option, probably. Did I stand up and shout aggressively back to him and say, "Hello, just because you're a partner, don't abuse your position just because I'm a trainee solicitor. You've got no right to talk to me like that." Was I intolerable? What did I do? I'll tell you what happened. That morning, I woke up and I was within remembrance and awareness of this entity, formless Nirankar. And the connection was so strong that day. And I really thank God for giving me that strength. I was so calm, so professional, so collected. I was actually shocked at myself. And I was smiling at him. I stuck up for myself. And I said, "I'm sorry, but you've obviously, there's been an error somewhere. I haven't actually done this, what you're saying. It was there before. Perhaps we should look at the IT team and see what's happened." Trying to be all professional, and I was calm, despite his raving. And did it diffuse the situation? This is real life. No, it didn't. He accused me of lying. But hey-ho, did it spoil that calmness? How was my tolerance level? Absolutely amazing strength was showered upon me. I was absolutely fine. Carried on with my work, and the other partners said to me, "I'm really sorry about his behavior, it's out of line and whatnot." I think back at that time, and I know that strength, that power, came from the superpower, formless Nirankar. That's where that tolerance came from. If I had not been tapped into that source, if I had not been connected, I'm pretty sure that things would have been extremely tough for me. And I don't know how difficult he could have made life for me after that, had I been aggressive and rude back. And I definitely wouldn't have received the positive reviews from the other partners who had witnessed what had took place that day. So the key to tolerance is connecting to that superpower, that Nirankar force. And the 3 methods of keeping that connection strong so that we're not fazed by these surprised, unexpected situations is by keeping that awareness, keeping that remembrance of that entity and tapping into its all of its positive traits, keeping the company of those who practice the same ideals. If we're keeping the company of those who exercise tolerance, such as most of you here, then it's going to rub off onto us. And then serving selflessly, that act of not wanting anything in reward, that fosters humility, which again grows tolerance. So all in all, connecting to the limitless is the best means of cultivating limitless tolerance. Please say with love, Dan Nirankari.
Wonderful words from Sangeeta ji. Sangeeta ji will be experiencing new experiences of tolerance when she does have her child. As a father myself, you are exposed to some special times, shall we say. Just as Vibhati ji and Samji are getting ready, a few weeks ago, I got a message from my wife that our youngest son had drawn over the walls in the bedroom. And it was very strange. She set up on WhatsApp and she told everyone in our family. And everyone came back and said, oh, how cute, how lovely. It wasn't cute or lovely when I was scrubbing the walls afterwards. But that's another level of tolerance that we accept. And now, as requested, Vibhati ji and Samji to sing a wonderful hymn. And after them, I would like to request Navreen Batra ji from London.
Saints say one voice. I'm gonna make a change for once in my life. It's gonna feel real good. Gonna make a difference, gonna make it right. As I turn up the collar on my favorite winter coat, this wind is blowing my mind. See the kids in the street, not enough to eat. Who am I to be blind, pretending not to see their needs? A summer's disregard, a broken bottle top, and a one-man song. They follow each other on the wind, you know, 'cause they got nowhere to go.
That's why I want you to know
I'm starting with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. And no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself, then make that change. Na 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 na. I've been a victim of a selfish kind of love. It's time that I realize there are some with no home, not a nickel to loan. Could it be really me pretending that they're not alone? A widow deeply scarred, somebody's broken heart, and a washed out dream. They follow the pattern of the wind, you see, 'cause they got no place to be.
That's why I'm starting with me.
I'm starting with the man in the mirror, and I'm asking him to change his ways. And no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself, then make that change.
I'm starting with the
Man in the mirror, and I'm asking him to change his ways. And no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself, then make that change.
I'm starting with the man in the mirror, and I'm asking him to change his ways. And no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself, then make that change. Na 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 na. Saints say one voice.
Sant Nirankari. Before his passing, Nelson Mandela was asked, "What would you like your epitaph to read?" And he replied, "I would like it to be said, 'Here lies the man who has done his duty on earth.' That is all. We have to make a change. We have to do our duty." And this is what Vibhatiji and Samji were singing about. And now I'd like to ask Navrinji to speak, and her topic is on tolerance in the family and workplace. And after her, we have another delightful video.
Saints with one loving voice, Sant Nirankari. Saints, I'm just going to share my thoughts on tolerance in the family and the workplace. Tolerance, we've heard, is the willingness to accept the feelings, habits, or beliefs that are different from our own. In a practical sense, this means keeping an open mind when interacting with others who are different from us and treating everybody with respect and compassion. So why is tolerance in the workplace important? Tolerance encourages open and honest communication. It can improve teamwork and loyalty, which are all important in a company. So what are the challenges that we can face in the workplace which can cause us to become intolerant? We've already heard some examples from Sister Singitaji too of the challenges she faced in her workplace. And other examples might be if we feel that our manager has not treated us fairly, or if a junior has not given us enough respect and we don't understand things from their point of view, that could cause us to become intolerant. If we don't think that we've got the status, the promotion, the pay that we deserve, it can cause us to become unhappy and more intolerant towards our situation and circumstances. If we're working with people with different cultural backgrounds, for example, if you're communicating with people in different countries, they might have a different communication style. For example, on email, it might come across a bit aggressive to us. That could cause us to become intolerant. If we have too much work, we're working under pressure to tight deadlines, we become stressed, we become intolerant to people who might have a different work ethic to us. So all of these things are examples of things that can happen in the workplace which make us intolerant, and there may be many more examples too. So in and amongst all of this, how do we maintain a sense of tolerance? Saints, in my opinion, it's about distilling it back to basics. No matter how different someone else may seem, we all share the common bond of humanity. We all have emotions and life experiences which are similar. Everybody wants to be treated with love, compassion, and respect. As Mother Teresa said, there is more hunger for love and appreciation in this world than for bread. And with these fundamental principles, we actually have more in common with people than we may think. Having tolerance is about embracing the differences and recognizing that that can actually help make our lives more rich, diverse, and exciting. It's like having a garden and realizing that a daisy is different to a bluebell, which is different to a sunflower. Each is individually different and beautiful, and together they can form a wonderful, diverse garden. To exercise tolerance in the workplace, it is important for us not to wrap ourselves up in our ego, to think that our views are the best or that we've been working for a certain number of years so we have a certain level of experience or status, which means that we should carry ourselves in an arrogant way. Instead, we should have an attitude of understanding and inclusion towards others and remember that we are all one. It is also important to maintain a sense of perspective. Having faith in the Supreme Being can help us to achieve this. It's very easy to be at work, to get bogged down in the detail, the pressure of doing things, thinking it's the most important and critical thing that you are doing. We sometimes need to take a step back, put things into perspective. The workplace is only one part of our lives.
We should have faith that things will work out according to God's divine plan. It's also important to communicate well with colleagues. Although right now we're discussing tolerance in the workplace, this would apply even if you're at school or university and working on team projects. Differences might arise, but it's important to understand another person's point of view and also to explain our points of view too, so that we have a better understanding and can work in a tolerant way. However, saints, it does also need to be noted that tolerance doesn't mean just letting people take advantage of us, having people walk all over us, for example. But what it does do is change our way of thinking. It makes us question ourselves, why are we being intolerant? Are we just being inflexible, or are there things that we can accept? And then, if there are things that we need to raise, it makes us aware of how we raise them. We take control of our emotions. We think about articulating what we're saying in a respectful, considerate way, rather than being intolerant, aggressive, and trying to put other people down. Saints, when we look at Sadhguru, he teaches us how to behave through his actions. He's loving, compassionate. He explains his views clearly and assertively. We make mistakes, yet he perseveres to teach us. He also explains very humbly all the opportunities that he's been blessed with, the countries he's visited, what he's doing for the mission, and what he continues to do. And in the same way, we should follow Sadhguru's example to be able to share the way that we want to say our views and explain what we're doing humbly and respectfully in the workplace. There may be challenges at work, but these are there to teach us. And as the Dalai Lama said, if you can cultivate the right attitude, your enemies are your best spiritual teachers, because their presence provides you with the opportunity to enhance and develop tolerance, patience, and understanding. Saints, outside of the workplace too, it is important to keep the company of saints to remind us of these values, and that is why it's also important to have tolerance in the family. It is the characteristics that we learn in the family that we spread when we're outside of the home too. For all those people that have not yet started to work, it is being in the home and the family which are perfect learning grounds for tolerance. In the family, we learn to adapt, compromise, and be flexible, often facing challenging situations. For example, saints, I have two brothers. One supports Manchester United, the other one supports Liverpool. I know that when there's a football match between the pair of them, I won't be allowed to watch television, something I need to accept. And we also know that when there's a football match between these two teams, my dad has to sit between the pair of them and keep them at opposite sides of the room and try and be the peacemaker and try and teach them to be tolerant and to remember to have a sense of perspective that it's just a football match. So saints, there may be differences in the family, there may be sibling rivalry, children, parents of a different generation way of thinking, but by being understanding, we can focus on spreading love in a caring way. By having respect and not taking people for granted, we realize that we're all souls who are potentially divine, so children and adults in the home both share love, respect, and tolerance. As Desmond Tutu said, God's dream is that you and I and all of us will realize that we are a family made for togetherness, for goodness, and for compassion. Saints, please bless me that I'm able to put this into my own life. Saints, say with love.
Gee, wonderful words. We often think that the corporate world and the commercial world is very much focused on making money and getting as much as it can out of society. And those of you that work in sort of professional services or manufacturing or retail will be familiar with the concept of service levels. And what that is that when two companies, they decide they want to engage the services of a party, they understand that sometimes mistakes are made. They understand that sometimes you can't deliver on time. So when they write their contracts, when they write their documentation, they have what are called service levels, which anticipate that sometimes mistakes are made, and they set tolerances in place. And they accept that some things happen, but as long as it falls below a certain tolerance level, everything's fine. What are our tolerance levels? Where do we set ours? Perhaps we need to take a leaf out of the corporate world's book and understand that, Mistakes are made. We are human. We need to set our tolerance levels perhaps a little bit higher than they are currently. And now, as I said, we have our second video, and this is the one prepared by Priyachanji from London. And again, it's a wonderful video asking a question about tolerance from 5 individuals from different parts of the world. And after the video, we'll have a wonderful hymn from Renuka Jaliji from London.
Tolerance ay pag-unawa sa mga iba't ibang mga tao at pag-accept sa mga kanilang mga prinsipyo at ang kanilang mga pag-iisip.
Ich denke, dass Toleranz ein elementarer Bestandteil jeder funktionierenden Gesellschaft ist. Ganz gleich, wo wir leben, ist, denke ich, Toleranz sehr, sehr wichtig. Egal in welchem Alter wir sind, in welcher Umgebung wir uns befinden, ob das im privaten und natürlich auch im Berufsleben ist.
همه جوامع ما آدم‌ها احتیاج داریم که به هم احترام بگذاریم، همدیگر رو دوست داشته باشیم و یاد بگیریم که با عشق و محبت و دوستی میتونیم جهانی بسازیم که برای هر شهروندی فارغ از هر نژاد و مذهب و رنگی یه مکان مناسب برای زندگی باشه. با احترام به همدیگه، دوست داشتن همدیگه و رعایت حقوق همدیگه میتونیم یه جهان خوب برای همدیگه بسازیم و در کنار هم زندگی کنیم.
我就認為應該首先要從教育嗰方面咧着手嘅，始終一個社會嘅文化咧，其實教育係即係有一個好重要嘅嘢。咁啊變咗就係話要喺即係不斷咁樣教育佢哋咧，教育下一代咧，點樣去包容學習係。咁另一點咧就係作為一個大人，亦都需要以身作則咧，去即係俾到啲人睇得到呢個社會係即係會尊重於其他嗰啲人嘅啲意見嘅。
I guess people are very complicated. They are very affected by how they bring up. Like a priest, they will not believe in anything apart from the Bible they are studying. Like a person in a desperate area, they've been trained in all sorts of propaganda. They have no chance. But I guess the only chance is we really have to open up and look at the wider world, what the world is like. The world is more than what you think of.
Kailangan nilang mag-uusap at magkaintindihan sa isa't isa para maunawa ang kanilang mga prinsipyo para hindi magkakaroon ng mga pagkaaway o pagkagulo sa isa't isa. Kailangan nilang maintindihan mga kailangan ng isa't isa. Dapat din nilang pag-unawaan ang mga sinasabi ng iba't ibang mga tao, mas lalo tungkol sa kanilang mga ginagawa, pag-iisip at mga prinsipyo.
其實每一個民族咧都有佢自己嘅優點同埋缺點嘅。咁如果我哋能夠係將個焦點咧放喺佢哋嘅優點上面嘅時候，或許我哋能夠更加容易接受佢哋，係啦，同埋減少更加多嘅紛爭。
Ich glaube, ganz wichtig ist, dass Toleranz dadurch ja wichtig ist oder in dem Bereich ja wichtig ist, wo wir sehen, dass es Unterschiede gibt und es ja Menschen gibt. Intoleranz ist ja das Gegenteil von eben nicht verstehen, welche Unterschiede vorhanden sind und wie unwesentlich diese Unterschiede sind. Egal, ob es die Hautfarben sind, ob das verschiedene Mentalitäten sind, ob das Kulturen sind oder Religionen sind. Und um eben genau da zu sehen, ganz gleich, wo wir herkommen, es gibt kein besser oder schlechter, sondern es gibt ganz einfach Verschiedenartigkeit. Und diese Verschiedenartigkeit einfach anzunehmen, damit umzugehen und sich auch darüber zu freuen.
You may be poor, you may be rich, but you should also have one simple message: is you're no different from the others.
It's amazing, isn't it? We think that people from different parts of the world will have different concepts of ideology, of ideas. But doesn't everyone need food to eat, air to breathe? What's the difference then? Shouldn't our ideology, shouldn't our thoughts also be the same? Shouldn't our concepts of spirituality, tolerance, acceptance, love all be the same? And this is, I think, very beautifully highlighted in this video. And now, as I requested, Renagaji will come and share a wonderful song with us. And after her, I'd like to request Diljit Mehtaji to come and share one of his wonderful poems. Thank you.
Saints say with love. Here on this path, how can we ever be alone with you? Here on this path, connected to you, we realize the divine truth. I was blind, but now I see. You're the power within me. You are the true light there in every heart. You are the true light. Guide us on this path, just like the moon light, lighting up the dark. You are the true light there in every heart. Oh, Holy Lord, how can this be? From the chains of ego you have set me free. So blind I could not see that this soul that I need to know is Nirankari and all we need to be. I was blind, but now I see. You're the power around me. You are the true light there in every heart. You are the true light. Guide us on this path, just like the moon true light. There in every heart, you are the true light. Guide us on this path, just like the moon light. You're lighting up the dark, you are the true light. There in every heart, you are the true light. There in every heart, you are the true light. Guide us on this path, just like the moon light. Lighting up the dark, you are the true light. There in every heart. 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 Say with love.
Sant Nirankari. Wonderful words. His Holiness Sadhguru Babaji gave an example to do actually with moonlight and reflection. And what His Holiness said was that if you were to lay out 1,000 bowls of water in the moonlight, you would see the reflection of the moon in each of those bowls. And the meaning behind this is that those reflections reflect the true source, the one source, and that's the truth of it. However, mankind, society today, would interpret that perhaps differently, to say, actually, no, there's a different moon in each of those vessels, or the vessels actually contain 1,000 different moons. They've distorted reality. And this is what we need to focus on. We need to get past the distortion and go back to the true source. Now, as I requested, Diljit Mehtaji to come, a very accomplished speaker, very accomplished poet, to come and share his wise thoughts. And after him, I'd like to request Ankur Chadaji to come forward and give his speech.
Most dearest and beloved saints, please join me today by saying Sant Nirankari. Saints, I've been asked to recite a poem, and you'll have noticed all the contributors have been young, healthy, and agile. And then right in the middle of it all, they stick an old boy in. That's probably tolerance. In the face of intolerance, there is only one question to be posed, and that is, why? If we're all children of one father, if we're all children of one father, why are we so radical? Some haughty and purer than pure, and others undesirable. Do the haughty descend to the earth as zephyrs of fresh air, whilst others erupt like volcanoes with ash clouds of despair? Why is one religion pure and superior with a God-given right, whilst the other is deemed inferior and seen as a blight? Why is the mind so fickle and frail, in a flux, never at rest? Why does it not accept mankind as the highest and the best? A dark, black cloud of ignorance fuels egoic inhumanities, reducing everything to cinders in a bonfire of vanities. Why not awake from your slumber to see the effulgent light, to appreciate your real heritage, to claim your divine right? The one who turns barren lands into harvests of plenty, transforming mere mortals into angelic bounty. The one who even yields gold from the thick of muck through service via action, not the wantonness of luck. The one who takes every morn to be a splendid thing, packed to the hilt with life's essential, sacred spring. The one who teaches by example and runs an open house. The one who is always poised one and all to espouse, one who reforms to facilitate the burdens of daily life and deletes rites and rituals, lessening monetary strife, the one who delivers everyone from the karmic wheel. Why not seek him once for all, for your fate to duly seal? As a single drop is incomplete, why not become the sea? As a single drop is incomplete, why not become the sea? You and you alone to remain, and no more of me. And you alone to remain, and no more of me. Sant Nirankari.
Wonderful. Thank you, Diljit ji. I'm sure, Diljit, we all tolerated you there. It was wonderful words. Now, as I requested Uncle Chadaji to speak upon the topic, Sadhguru as a living example of tolerance. And after Uncle Ji, I'd like to request Shobhadaji from Oxford sing a song.
Holy congregation, please say with one loud and loving voice, Sant Nirankari. Saints, let's talk about role models. What is a role model? A role model is someone who we look up to. A role model is someone whose behavior and actions actually form an example of a way of living. So let's take an example. For me, there's this guy at work, and he's really good at his job. He's hardworking, he's disciplined, he knows his stuff, and he's the youngest director of the company. He made director at 28. So Saints, when I go to work sometimes, I think, you know what, I want to be like him. He's a role model. Another example, a sports person, for example, a footballer. A footballer is very good at what he does. He's very skilled, he has a high level of fitness. He earns a lot of money. He's got a big house. He wears nice clothes. He gets all the girls. I want to be like him. The list goes on. There's many role models we have in the world today. But why are these people role models? It's because people want to be like them. People want to be successful. People want to be good at what they do. People want to be rich. People want to be well respected. And the special thing about role models is that they are in the flesh and they have done it. They have proven that it's possible. So that guy at work, he's proven that it's possible to be director at 28. That footballer has proven that he can make loads of money and get all the girls. It's proven. So what else do people want? So we've established that people want to be money, to have money, to be successful. But do we ever strive to be tolerant? Is that something that we want to be? Do I ever wake up and think, you know what? I want to be a more tolerant person. I want to be tolerant. It's not really at the top of people's lists. It's not at the top of mine. Why is that? Probably because we don't have enough role models. Well, how does Satguru change that? How does Satguru change that? Well, firstly, what is Satguru? Satguru, split the word up. Sat, Guru. Sat means truth, and Guru means teacher. And you can split Guru up even further, where Gu is dark and Ru is light. So Satguru is a teacher who reveals the truth and brings one person from dark to light. And Saints, Baba Hardev Singh Ji Maharaj, the photo there is of Baba Hardev Singh Ji Maharaj, and he is my Satguru. He is my Satguru in human form. So what do I mean human form? So let's take an example of school. We're in the classroom, and it's maths next. And we've got all our textbooks there. Mechanics, statistics, trigonometry, pure maths, everything's there. But that theory will always remain theory until the teacher walks in and teaches us. And that theory hasn't changed, it hasn't evolved, it was always there, and it will always be there. Similarly, the truth has always been there, and it always will be there. But Satguru reveals the truth. And without Satguru, that truth will always remain theory. And what Satguru does, he brings this truth to life. So just as we mentioned previously, role models are a proof that things can be done. The guy at work, he's proven that he can be director. The footballer's proven this. What does Sadhguru prove? Sadhguru proves that it is possible to be a perfect human being. Sadhguru proves that it's possible to be a loving and tolerant person at all times. And that's why he is here in human form, is because he can be a living example of what we truly should be. So, what does Babaji do then? Babaji treats everyone the same. Everybody the same. Doesn't matter how they look, how they act, how tall they are, what color they are, whether they're broad-minded, whether they're narrow-minded, whether they're humble, whether they're egotistic. He treats everybody the same. And how does he do this? How can you treat someone the same? Imagine that. You know there's one guy who's egotistical and intolerant, and then there's another person who is lovely and broad-minded and nice to be around. How can you treat both of them the same? Well, that's what Babaji does. And how does he do that? He detaches himself from the mind and attaches himself to the one. And saints, that's what he does. All he does is see one. If he detaches himself from the mind, when he sees everyone else, all he sees is one. And Babaji is also tolerant in other ways. So he's not just tolerant of people, people's actions, people's bad habits, people's behavior, but he's also tolerant of situations. So, saints, we've all been there. Tired, hungry, thirsty, cold, dirty. All we want to do is go home, have a shower, have something to eat, and not talk to anyone. We've all been in that situation. We just feel irritated. Well, Babaji doesn't do that. Babaji is detached from his body, and when he goes on spiritual tours, he has an average of 2 or 3 hours sleep a night. Sometimes he's ill, but whenever you see him, he's warm and he's smiling. Why is that? I want to be like that. It's because he is detached from his body. He is detached from his body and mind. So how can we be like this? Is it even possible to be like this? Well, it could be possible, but we need to take baby steps. And the first step should to detach ourselves from this mind and focus on the knowledge that Sadhguru has bestowed upon us. And what is that knowledge? That knowledge is that we are not the mind. We are not the mind and we are not the body. We are just one. And if we keep thinking that, then how can we be intolerant? Tolerance won't be something that we try to do. It will just be normal. It will be normal. Just walking up and down the street, all we see is one. Detach ourselves from our mind. Detach ourselves from our body. So saints, a lot of you have met Babaji and therefore you probably know what I'm talking about. But for those of you who haven't met him, I really urge you to meet him. He is a ray of sunshine. He is absolutely amazing. When he walks into a room, you just see the warmth and the energy in that room and in his smile. And you see his power in his tenderness. And it is because of Satguru Baba Hardev Singh Ji Maharaj is that we have this mission. We have this mission of universal brotherhood and spreading love. And it is because of his blessings that we're here today. So I hope you all enjoy the rest of today, and bless me that I can remain detached from my mind and body and be tolerant at all times. Saints, Sant Nirankari.
Wonderful words from this young man. I'm booking my ticket straight away to India to go and visit Babaji. Now, as requested, have Shobhita Ji to share one of the wonderful songs with us. And after Shobhita Ji, I'd like to ask Surjit Ji to come and say his speech.
Saints, I want a loving voice. I don't know what it is. Why have we gotta fight this addiction to inner spite? I don't know when it is, but there'll be a change. No time for this hate. The show's not over though, so don't close the curtains, no. We'll say goodbye to all these bad vibes and let the world see the light. I don't know what it is. Why do we create pain? We enjoy, take pride in this game. Oh, I know how it is. The will save this race, keeping blood in veins instead of drains. The show's not over though, so don't close the curtains, no. We'll say goodbye to all these bad vibes and let the world see the light. Yeah, we'll let the world see the light. Yeah, we'll let the world see the light. Saints in one living voice.
Nirankari. Thank you, Shogaraji. We often hear that we are living in a broken society. An example that His Holiness gave was that sometimes when we have a thread and it breaks, if you tie a knot in it, it becomes whole again. The knot is still visible, but the thread is still able to achieve what it needs to achieve. And in the same way, you know what? Mistakes are made. Things happen in our lives. But as long as we can build those bridges, we can tie ourselves back in, we can achieve the greater good. Now, as I requested Surjit Ji to come and to share his thoughts, and his topic is what not to tolerate. And after him, I'd like to request special guest Christopher Johnson to be ready for a song. Thank you.
Holy congregation, say with one loving voice, Sant Nirankari. As you can see, my arm is in a sling. Dislocated my shoulder. Managed to somehow tolerate the pain. But you know, there's one pain, there's one type of suffering that I'm not willing to tolerate. And that is when my humanity is dislocated. When my love is dislocated. When my forgiveness is dislocated. When my kindness is dislocated. When I am dislocated from myself as a whole being. Because you know, you can move furniture around the living room, there's no harm. But when you decide to knock down a holding wall, then you're in a dangerous situation. For the pillar of tolerance upholds the roof of humanity. Take away that pillar and everything will fall down. And I will not only suffer, but all those that are with me will too suffer as well. So you know, it's a very broad concept. What to tolerate? You know, if I can say I tolerate everything, then a phrase could be walkover, doormat. But you know, the key is to know what to tolerate and what not to tolerate. I want to not only tolerate people's languages, cultures, not only tolerate people's faiths, I want to celebrate it. You know, I can tolerate a traffic jam. I want to celebrate people. It's not a traffic jam. I'm not in a group of people huddled together like sheep in a pen. There's a great sense of joy when I see another human being. You know, there was once a man who was stranded on an island by himself for several weeks. He was a racist. He didn't like many people. Actually, he even despised his own neighbor who speaks the same dialect as he does. Actually, they were related. He still hated him because he lived next door and not in his own house. But you know, that moment when he looked out and he looked behind and he thought there might be snakes there might be bears. He thought, you know, any human being I see that comes on a ship now is my best friend. I don't care if he's African, American, British, I don't care who he is. You know, when I see another human being, I should light up. What a joy to see another human being. You know, there was once an organization that invited many people across the world for a long conference. And it was late at night and they all decided to go to sleep, and they noticed that, you know, all the translators in the day worked hard. But you know, even though some people were speaking Polish, Chinese, Japanese. But you know, they were all snoring the same. Everyone was snoring the same. All the way through. You don't need a translation for that. I'm smiling. Tell me, am I smiling in Indian? Am I smiling English? If I cry, are my tears Pakistani? Are my tears Irish? I'm a human being. And you know, one of the things that all the people we respect, as we heard earlier, about role models, they tolerate a lot, even personal hardships. One thing they won't tolerate is lack of humanity within themselves. Lack of humanity. I'm not going to devalue my humanity just because someone else decides to value hatred. I'm not going to let go of forgiveness just because someone else wants to hold on to vengeance. I'm not going to start getting bitter just because someone else doesn't want me to get better. You know, how I react is in my own hands. How other people act is in theirs. Why should it bother me so much? To what extent? It's like a child looking up at the sky. He sees the bird, says, Dad, look, those birds are going west. Those birds are going east. It's chaos. I can't tolerate this. And the father said, son, you can't control those birds. For a moment, don't look at the birds. Look at the sky. Look at the beautiful sky in which all the birds move. And you too will feel a sense of ease and calmness. For you know, sometimes when there are issues of tolerance, it's always personalities. I look at someone, I don't like the look of their face. I don't like the way they're standing, the way they're talking. It's personality, it's physical. If it's not physical, then it's mental. That, oh, you know, I don't like the way he's trying to convey his thoughts. I don't think he's very intellectual. I don't want to sit with him. I don't want to tolerate his company. There's always inequality when it comes to the mind, and there's always inequality when it comes to the body. How are we going to get that equality? That equality comes from seeing the soul, the spirit. In Sanskrit, they call it samdrishti. Sam means equal. You know, when I look around, what's equal? Is the ground equal? This ground's lower than some of the other hills in Wales. The ground is not equal. Is fire equal? There's fire in the middle of the earth, and there's fire that erupts at the top of the mountain, volcanoes. Is air equal? There's air that is more purer higher up than there is lower down. Is space equal? There's more space apparently in this hall than the reception area. Are stars equal? There's more stars that have stronger gravitational pull than other stars. Everything we experience, from the concrete jungle to the jungles in the forest, is unequal. Experience that equality for which every saint, every social reformer, every human being that has been enlightened, as Babaji is giving the message today, experience this equality, samdrishti. See the whole world as whole. That is how we tolerate the world as whole. So, you know, when I want to celebrate other people's differences, under no circumstance will I tolerate my own indifference. Indifference means lack of caring, lack of concern. Under every circumstance, I will tolerate other people's way of living, but I will not tolerate my lack of enthusiasm to help others. Tolerance isn't always about other people, it's about the way I treat myself as well. How do I treat myself? And this is why it's important. I'm not a tree stuck on the ground. If someone is talking rude to me, I can move. You know, Babaji once gave an example. You know, if a tree is on fire, the tree is saying, okay, I'm on fire, but says to the bird on the branch, why don't you fly? You know, we can move. We can choose what we want to hear, where we want to go, who we want to meet, which company we want to sit in. But you know, sometimes I'm just simmering in that moment. I'm so angry, I'm holding on to it. He said this to me, right, I'm not moving. I'm like a 2-year-old having a tantrum. Learn to let go. Learn to just be. It's like a sailor in a boat, and he looks at the heavy crate, and the boat is sinking, and he looks, you know, what am I going to do? So he shifts the heavy crate to the other side of the boat. Ship is still sinking. And you know why? He doesn't see the ocean all around him. And then he doesn't make the connection that this heavy crate that is causing me to drown, I'll just throw it overboard. You know, if I'm in difficult situations with different people, instead of shifting my emotions within myself, take a step back and have a wider viewpoint. That's what spirituality is. That is samdrishti. And just to summarize and what the previous speaker was saying as well about a teacher. You know, it's strange the things that we tolerate and we don't. I was just saying to a friend of mine, when he sat in a passenger seat in a car, he decided to ask the driver, "Have you passed your driving test?" And the driver said, "I have, but I've never ever been in the company of a driving instructor, really. It's my friend who was helping me out with a few lessons." He didn't feel comfortable sitting in the passenger seat. He said, "I'm not going to tolerate this. I want to be in the company of someone who had a driving instructor." A man sat in the dentist chair, and the dentist said, "Open your mouth," and he showed him all the drills and all the needles. And so he trusted him as a dentist. But he then said to the dentist, "How many senior dentists have you seek training from?" He said, "Nobody. I just read a book about teeth." We wouldn't tolerate it if someone wanted to drive a car and he only read a book about car engines. We wouldn't tolerate it if we sat in the aeroplane and the pilot only read a book about gravity and aerodynamics. We want to know the company we're keeping, they've actually had some sort of experience from someone who's had a greater experience in every field of life, but somehow spirituality is different. Now, for example, Brother George here, he's got a great amount of experience in physics. He's had the company of physics lecturers. I want to know physics, I seek his company. Now, does that mean that I've abandoned Einstein and Newton and I disrespected them just because I want to learn something from Brother George? No, it means actually I'm respecting Newton and Einstein, but I'm just deciding to increase my knowledge and understanding by seeking the company of a living teacher. And that's all this mission is about. Seek good company. And then you will enjoy your own company. You know, sometimes I say, I tolerate my wife, or tolerate my family, or tolerate my friends, or those who I don't think are friends. But ultimately the question is, they actually struggling to tolerate me most of the time. I'm not realizing it. I must actually tolerate myself. Live with myself. Can I look in the mirror and live with myself? Knowing that I haven't given my 100%. Knowing that, you know, there was a time I probably could have waited. I didn't need to say those harsh words. I didn't need to be so stubborn. I didn't need to be so rude. What have I lost? You know, waiting 2 minutes and then still biting back. Was it really valuable, those 2 minutes, that I reacted that way? So this is what I would say, that just to summarize, that, you know, at the end of the day, in everything we do, and tolerance and anything else, all I require is an open mind, but when, like an open hand, ready to receive everything. But when the hand is closed, there's no other word for it but a fist. The hand that is closed is a fist, and the mind that is closed only does harm. So thank you for tolerating me. Say the one voice.
Sujitji is such a wonderful speaker, very animated. My concern right at the beginning of his speech was, is his sling going to be able to tolerate his movements? As Christopher makes his way to the stage, I have a few announcements. First of all, those of members of the congregation that wish to do Namaskar, there will be an opportunity after the end of the Samagam. We hold a lot of events here at this Centre for Oneness in the West Midlands. We've got a few up-and-coming ones I'd like to share with you. The West Midlands Police and Crime Commissioner, Bob Jones, and his deputy, Yvonne Mosquito, will be here at this centre on the 21st of March at 5:30 until 7 p.m. And it will be a surgery where anyone can come in and sort of discuss any concerns they have. On the 2nd of April, we'll be having a blood donor drive, which will be here, and that will be from 1:30 p.m. till 9 p.m. Also, as well, we will be, as we did last year, or as we have been for a number of years now, we'll be encouraging, so we're having a tree planting event, which is to promote in the environment and conservation, and that will be held within the next sort of 2 weeks, so in further detail to be put up, and that will be at Hayden Hill, where previously the tree plantation conservation we've done before. We also have a new wealth of literature available as well, and that will be out in the front in reception. Now, as I requested, a very special guest of ours, Christopher Johnson, who will be sharing one of his wonderful compositions with us today. And after him, I would like to request Serena Nagaji from London to come and recite a poem. Thank you.
Please say one loving voice. Sant Nirankari.
love formless so long. One love formless. One love formless so long. To the errors I have grown. You are Lord of forgiveness, my thoughts please condone. You manifest in us all. One love formless, one love formless so long. One love formless, one love formless so long. Your benevolence, shower upon us, please, Lord. My prayer is this for all. One love formless, one love formless, so Lord. One love formless, one love formless, so Lord. My faith in you, my faith in you, may falter never, my faith in you. Love, devotion, shower dedication. May I honor the saints forever. May I honor the saints forever. One love formless, one love formless so long. 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 Say one of your voice, darling.
The only comment I can make after that is wow. Thank you, Christopher. That was a wonderful rendition, adaptation of one of the mission's own prayers. Thank you very much. This was truly wonderful. Now, as I requested Serena G to come and share a poem with us, and after Serena G, I would like to ask Bobby Suraji to be ready for a speech.
Saints with one loving voice, Dan and Gaji. O giver of hearts, who goes unheard, who communicates all in the absence of words, I burn in flames, I suffer in silence, a world defined by fits of violence. I ask for a mercy far greater than owed, and the love and blessings that you bestowed. A child of the Lord, they ask me to see. They ask for patience from the impatient me. What tolerance to teach of in times of sorrow, but did the night not die for the birth of tomorrow? Must I seethe and endure for the sake of others? Must I bite my tongue till vices are smothered? Cast away the pain of suppression, and see your mind start to freshen. In the symphony of silence the answer lies. The conductor lives on in music's disguise. I built a tower on love's foundation, tolerance for all, the greatest creation. I bow to my Lord and look down at my brothers. I sacrifice to him and neglect all others. The pain we bear, the angst in our soul, we forget the words on Rumi's scroll. Why fear the sting of the cleansing wipe, which polishes the heart with every swipe? Faceless master who unleashed my wings, who accepts devotion from this bird that sings, I ask you for strength to tolerate the earth, for it's only then we value our worth. To surrender and accept, have faith and forgive, creates the ability to tolerate and live. Accept that the difference might be a hindrance, but it's the rawness of man in all our difference. Give back to God a lesson you have learnt. Show him the walls have all been burnt. Sacrifice your pride for tolerance to bloom. The thorns of the rose they never consume. For though God resides in the mud on the streets, he's truly alive in the humans that we meet. Be abundant in tolerance for others' mistakes, for the ocean still takes offerings from the humble lake. The melody of her fees it taught me to see, that me and mine it could not be. For did the sun ever ask for payment from earth? This story of love, it encompassed our worth. Where is duality in the abyss of the one? Unite in our difference and we will have won. And so, my master, I beg you, my dear, to help me surrender and let go of the fear. Wash away my name with the grace of your love. Let me find solace in the stars up above. Burning bright, they guide us from space, all in the hope that we might see your face. To open my mind and to open my heart, to see you in man and will never part. To accept and tolerate the battles of life, and to finally heal the wounds of strife. The night gave way for the beauty of dawn. Amongst these thorns a rose was born. In diverse conditions of humankind, a sun was revealed to heal the blind. It was bathed in your love and absorbed in your grace, that tolerance prevailed. Now all share your face. Say it with one loving voice.
Thank you. I received a message many years ago that said, and it was a quote, that in times of sorrow, in times of pain, if you feel that God is bashing you against the rocks, do not feel that. He is merely polishing a precious gem. And this is what Serena G was sharing with us. And now, as requested, Bobby Suraji, well-respected speaker, will share his wonderful thoughts on how Gyan raises the bar of tolerance. And after Bobby G, I would like to ask respected Harbanshi to make their way to the stage.
Friends, invited guests, Holy Sad Sangatji, please say in one loving voice, Sant Nirankari. We've heard such eloquent words today of wisdom on the theme of promoting tolerance within society. And actually we heard today that we can't really tolerate until we understand. Understanding is very important. Because once we start to understand, only then can we start to appreciate. Without understanding, we can't even begin to appreciate. And once we start to appreciate, we can go beyond prejudice. We can go beyond all of our prejudgments because we start to see things as they are. And once we appreciate, once we can go beyond prejudice, we can start to accept. We can start to have acceptance of others in our lives. The thing is, you see, we can't really love anybody until we learn to accept them. How often have we seen relationships in the world where people are just trying to change the other person? Constantly seeing others, I'm constantly looking at others as I am rather than looking at others as they are. And by changing, trying to battle with people, relationships get tense, we fall out with one another, we just don't accept one another. The highest form of acceptance and understanding, is there such a thing? Everything has a spectrum, doesn't it? Everything has a kind of a low point, a midpoint, and a high point. So what is the highest form of acceptance and understanding? That's what I want to talk about today. Because actually the highest form of acceptance and understanding is when we start to accept and understand ourselves. We can't love anybody, we can't accept anybody else until we have learned to develop that acceptance of ourselves. And we can't accept ourselves until we have known who we are. That is what this Gyan, this spiritual realization that I'm talking about today, that's what it gives us. It is that acceptance, that self-realization. The sages have said that knowing others is intelligence. Knowing yourself is true wisdom. Mastering others is strength. It might make you strong, but you know it's when you master yourself that you find true power. That is what this is about. Gyan is an essential knowledge, an essential understanding. It's an awareness, really. It's something that helps us really realize what we are. Daljitji's poem was talking about the ocean and the drop. The drop always feels that it is separate from the ocean. But through the revelation of Gyan, through this awareness, the drop begins to realize that actually it is the ocean. As a great Sufi sage, Rumi, says, you know, we are not just a drop in the ocean, but we are the whole ocean within a drop. The entire ocean within a drop. And that is what Gyan gives us. That is the understanding. That's what it brings to us. And it's so important because what can a drop do? A drop of water on its own cannot quench anybody's thirst, cannot cleanse, cannot purify. It cannot sustain life in the way that the waters of the earth do. It is far too insignificant until it realizes what it is, until it expands its horizons. But when the drop feels that it is the ocean and identifies with its higher source, then everything becomes possible. All of those things become possible. You see, if I have a stone and there is a cup of water on the floor and I throw a stone into that cup of water, what happens? The water splashes out. There's great disturbance. There's massive disturbance. In fact, most of the water will not remain in the cup anymore. But take that same stone and throw it into the ocean. The ocean doesn't even realize that anything has happened. That is the way in which, when we associate with Gyan and awareness of our higher nature and our higher reality, actually we associate with a vastness, with really a kind of enlargement of ourselves. And that is when tolerance becomes possible. A realized soul, somebody that is living and experiencing Gyan, the spiritual realization in their lives, is constantly expanding. In fact, the Sanskrit word Brahm, God, means expansion. It means something that has no end, has no limit. It is constantly growing, constantly expanding and enlarging. And realized souls that live in Gyan, they are constantly expanding the sense of what is agreeable and acceptable to them. We heard about Professor Puriji today. He used to say that, you know, a real renunciate, people think, you know, that spirituality is about renunciation, letting go of things. He said the real renunciate is he who wants not and who rejects not. His scope of acceptance and agreeability expands to the farther horizons. And because the sense of agreeability and acceptance is growing, somebody that lives in Gyan, someone that lives in this realization, flows with existence, flows with the changing times, the changing circumstances. And flow is a wonderful metaphor, because when there is flow, there is smoothness. When there is flow, there is ease. When there is flow, when there is flow, there is harmony. And when there is the opposite of flow, when there is the opposite of flow, there is resistance. And resistance is all the opposite: tension, heat, friction. This is what intolerance is, really, isn't it? A lack of flow, a lack of acceptability. This is why Gyan, a complete acceptance and understanding of what we are, allows a human being to face all circumstances with an equal mind. Whether it is respect or humiliation, whether it is loss or gain, whether it is happiness or sorrow, through the lenses of Gyan, through the realization that the Sadguru gives, we start to see beyond duality. We start to look upon everything with a spirit of sahaj, a spirit of equanimity, a spirit of equal and even-mindedness. Whenever we identify with the eternal nature, because there is a part of us, each one of us sitting here, that was before we took birth and will remain long after we are physically no more. That everlasting spark, that life-giving breath, that divinity which is animating each of us, all beings on this planet, in fact keeping all planets in their orbits, keeping all the forces at bay, that divine spark is our eternal nature. And whenever we identify with it, we start to overcome the fleeting phenomena of this world, the comings and goings, the ups and downs, the hots and the colds. We start to get beyond it. Because when we are given this knowledge, this gyan, what Babaji asks of us is a first pledge. And he says, know first of all that everything that you think you are not. You think you are the body, but the body was not with you before you took this form. You think you are the mind, but sometimes you don't even know your own mind. What are you? You think you are something special because of your wealth, your possessions. Babaji tells us, you are not your possessions. All of these things change, come, go, can be taken away from you. You are something much more everlasting. But the thing is, the human being that identifies with this triad, the material existence, the physical existence, the emotional existence, sometimes even the social existence, when we identify with that, well, whenever there is change, all of these things change. Daljitji was an old boy today, but one time he was a young boy on the block. I remember him with his guitar and his flat cap. We are all changing. Sometimes people are rich and before you know it, they're bankrupt. Sometimes people live in poverty. Anyone that's seen Slumdog Millionaire, and before you know it, they have wealth. Everything is subject to change. And if we associate with the changing, then unfortunately our mental state, our attitude, our emotional balance will keep changing too. But when we associate with the eternal through this gyan, then we are associating with the everlasting, the ever-brimful, the infinite, and that is why when we associate with the ever-brimful, we are always full. We are never lacking in anything. Someone who lives in gyan, someone who lives within realization, celebrates life. All prayers belong to such a person. All people belong to such a person. All places of worship, all scriptures belong to such a person. Now look, it sounds like a hugely radical idea, but what is so radical about this? The spiritual teachers did not come for any one segment of humanity. They came for the whole universe, for the whole world. Everything that they said, they uttered, was written down in words. It belongs to us. It belongs to you, me, and everybody sitting here. It belongs to everybody. It is one common heritage of mankind. And because we accept everything to be our own, we can tolerate and accept and look beyond superficial differences. Babaji tells us that the devotees firmly believe that God dwells in all, and through this knowledge they love and respect all, because they see the spirit of divinity. No scripture on this earth makes us poorer. Every scripture on this earth makes us that much more wealthy if we are willing to invest within it. You know, the Gyan person that lives in Gyan and realization, he's not content with one color or two colors or three colors. He reclaims the whole rainbow. He wants the whole spectrum to be his, and that is his outlook. Gyan creates humility. Someone that is living in realization is on a lifelong path of learning and development. Someone that has attained this realization doesn't believe that they've arrived, you know. They believe that their journey has just begun. They believe that their journey of devotion, of bhakti, has only just begun. That's why when you say to somebody who's 80 years old, how old are you? They say, I'm 6 months old, I'm 1 year old, I'm 4 years old. And somebody says, why? How can you be 6? You look 85 years old. You can't be 6 months old. And he says, you know, I took one birth when my parents gave me birth, and I took another birth when I came into the fold of the spiritual master. And he started a new lease of life, a new journey for me. So Gyan, someone who has this realization, is a lifelong path of learning, always acquiring deeper and more meaningful insights, always appreciating the spectrum of wholeness. Someone who has gyan is always integrating, not disintegrating. Always joining and bringing things together, not ripping them apart, which is what the intolerant mind does. There are 5 senses, you know. They all open out onto this world, this material world. But there is an inner sense. It resides in the heart, you know, and when that door opens, it opens up to the world of spirit. There is somebody, there is a presence and experience that unlocks that inner heart and allows us to see the spiritual reality of things. That inner key can be called the Gyan. The Gyan takes us to a world when we took the first, the second, the third pledge, when we were asked to make these promises before Sadhguru revealed the everlasting to us. He took 3 pledges from us. And those pledges lead us to a world which is free of hatred, free of prejudice, free of enmity. It is the world of Begampura that Ravidas Ji talks of. It is a world in which vastness descends into our lives and there is room for everybody and all things. And finally, to summarize, Gyan expands our perspective. Gyan enlarges our capacity to embrace life. Gyan transforms our mental attitude. Gyan allows us to begin taking everything in our stride, no matter how unpleasant it may be. And Gyan gives us that vision with which we start to see peace, even when everything seems to be in pieces. Please say with love, Dan Nirnkari.
Dan Nirnkari. Bobbyji was sharing his thoughts and experiences and information, more importantly, on this God knowledge, on this Gyan. For those guests or anyone who wishes to learn more about this God knowledge, this realization, this truth, this Gyan, please do, after you've had your lunch, please do make your way to the conference room just near reception, where you'll be able to discuss this matter further and hopefully learn a little bit more about this wonderful bliss that Bobbyji was speaking about. And now, as I requested, respected Harbansji, who's a member of the executive committee of the Sant Nirankari Mission UK, to share his thoughts and give his thanks in regards to the English Samagam today.
Please say with love. The Almighty Lord without form is great. With bowed head and due reverence, I salute all the past role models of tolerance who showed us the way to tolerance. Be they Lord Buddha, Jesus Christ, Prophet Muhammad, or the gurus of the East and the enlightened philosophers. Whoever, wherever they were, I salute them. I salute those with due reverence who practice tolerance in life. And I salute those who are trying to practice this most important quality in life. And I pray for myself and for everyone that may the Almighty Lord, the source of all manifestation, grant everyone power and strength on this earth to be more tolerant. Everyone, whether it's a leader or whether it's UNO, everyone is agreed. There's a universal consensus on one point. And that is, without tolerance, we can never achieve world peace. And world peace cannot be achieved unless the citizens of this world, each citizen is at peace with himself or herself. The question is, tolerance is so important, and this today's topic that we have been discussing is so significant to everyone's life, whether it's working life, whether it's family life, whether it's community, neighborhood, society, nation, or our global society. It is so important that the mankind can only ignore such an important topic at his own peril. The saints, the mystics who practiced this virtue, who showed the way, who had told us the method how we can become more tolerant. And one of them observed that if it hadn't been for the enlightened beings who practiced tolerance in their lives, this world, the whole humanity would have ended in flames. So important is the topic. And we need to be introspective. We need to look within ourselves. How tolerant we are and how we can become more tolerant. It's not easy. It's not a weakling's task. You need to be strong, brave. You have to battle with yourself. There's so many factors, and there are people who can show us the way how we can successfully do it. There are people in this congregation, those who want to discuss, deliberate upon this topic. They can see there's Dr. Bobby Sura, there's respected George Kambe, respected Gurpreet Bhatia, Sajid Dami. You can always, have a discussion with them. How is it that the role models of the past, I call them role models because we ought to follow them. And those who are practicing tolerance, they are doing it by virtue of the fact that they are following them. They have been able to follow them, their teachings. If Jesus can say, forgive those, where did that forgiveness come from? If someone is sitting on red hot plates and still saying, let thy will be sweet to me, to the Lord, and has no enmity, no ill will, where has it come from? Bobby Sura already mentioned. He gave away the secret. That secret is Gyan. Or, ego, there's a self, ourself, that is ego. And beyond ego, there is a real self. And it's the realization of that real self that Gyan is all about. And until that is done, this secret passage, we cannot enter. Like Jesus said, it's easy for camel to go through the needle's eye, not for a person who's proud of his worldly things. These people have given us the way. And this world needs to be more tolerant. And it's always the people, this task has fallen upon the shoulders of those who feel for others. And it's in the mutual interest of everyone sitting in this room, every single person in this world, to cultivate tolerance. And the biggest ghost, biggest devil that has bedeviled mankind throughout the ages is, of course, intolerance. We had First World War. What was the reason? Intolerance. We had Holocaust. What was the reason? Intolerance. What is the reason today for the conflicts? Intolerance. So this ghost has to be captured and put back where it belongs, Aladdin's lamp. We all have this ghost within us. We all have it. When we are in good moods, we're tolerant. When we are happy, when we're at peace with ourselves, we're more compliant. When at the other time, we find a different side to ourselves. So why is it? Recently we had our rights. So everything, this Britain exploded all of a sudden. And there was one gentleman whose son lost his life in Birmingham. And he appealed to the people who wanted to revenge because they wanted to, jump on the wagon. He said, please do not, use violence. Now, what was the reason? And he was praised in the national press all over the world. What was the reason? Because he happened to belong to the Muslim faith. And those were the days of Ramadan, when every devout Muslim was required to think about Lord, to pray and to desist from doing wrong. Because the same man, it transpired a couple of months before, he had assaulted somebody. There was a case pending against him. So there is ups and downs and moods. How are we going to control this mood thing? Because tolerance has to be practiced constantly. It has to be all the time. And this is why we have to monitor ourselves, look into ourselves. We got to find a way. It's got to be individual because it's an individual thing. There can't be one way how we can sort of improve ourselves and become more tolerant. But there could be one way, when we think at night, do our diaries. Some people write diaries. Just think. Or how many times have I been intolerant when I could have been more tolerant? You can write it down, see if we can improve ourselves. Now, this topic of tolerance is relevant to those who are 5 years old sitting in this congregation, those who are 10, 15, 20, those who are 50, 60, and people like me. It's relevant. Therefore, we pray for tolerance. These meetings are needed where we can discuss it, thrash it out, deliberate, so that tolerance can become part of our daily life. More tolerant we have, more tolerant people we have, more tolerant citizens we have, more tolerant society we will get, and love will flow. Without love, Guru Gobind Singh Ji ordained, nobody can attain the Almighty Lord. And all this tolerance that these role models practiced, it all comes from the source, the Almighty Lord. So all these things we got to ponder over and find a way. And there are solutions here. There are solutions here. There are people who do practice tolerance. And we have to revere them. We have to respect them. And pray that we can copy their good virtues. We have to pray. So saints, I thank everyone who has taken out time today to come here and participate in this great event. It's an event of significance of every individual sitting in this room, and to the society, to our near and dear ones, to relatives, and to our world family. I thank you all. And without mentioning names, because I don't want to miss out any name, I want to thank the management team, people who organized, worked for months, spent nights and time, selflessly to make this possible. I thank you all. And in the end, please pray for me and I'll pray for you. Sant Nirankari.
Sant Nirankari. As Haribanshji was saying, tolerance. It is difficult to achieve. There's often a saying that when we are trying to achieve something difficult, it's said that you're trying to shoot for the moon, because the moon is very difficult to get to. And I heard a wonderful saying that shoot for the moon, because even if you miss, you'll still end up in the stars. Now, we've approached the time of the final discourse from a special guest speaker, Jagjit George Kambe, and we'll hear the prologue prayer just before we start from Gurunekji.
हे समरथ परमात्मा हे निर्गुण निरंकार तू करता है जगत का तू सबका आधार कन कन में है बस रहा तेरा रूप अपार तीन काल है सत्य तू मिथ्या है संसार घट घट वासी हे प्रभु अविनाशी करतार दया से तेरी हो सभी भवसागर से पार निराकार साकार तू के पालनहार है बेअंत महिमा तेरी दाता अपरंपार परम पिता परमात्मा सब तेरी संतान भला करो सबका प्रभु सबका हो कल्याण भला करो सबका प्रभु सबका हो कल्याण
तू ही निरंकार एक नू जान के घट घट अंदर सबना दे नाल प्यार करन एक नू जान के घट घट अंदर सबना दा सत्कार करन गुण गावन नित इससे एक दे इससे दा दीदार करन इससे एक दे नाल जोड़ के बेड़ा जग दा पार करन श्वास श्वास इस एक नू सिमरन दूजा कदे त्यावन ना के अवतार ओ पूरे गुरसिख एक नू कदी भुलावन ना एक नू जान के घट घट अंदर सबना सबना दे नाल प्यार करन एक नू जान के घट घट अंदर सबना दा सत्कार करन
Please say with one loving voice, Sant Nirankari. When Brother Surjit Ji came up and did his, shared his wonderful thoughts, I noticed that he had a very small post-it note, even half a post-it. And I was amazed at how much wisdom could be written on one small post-it. And what was even more amazing was that he didn't turn it over. And when he came to pay his respects, I was hoping to take the other side of the post-it, because such an enriching and wonderful experience we've all had today. And there have been different introductions, but I'm merely an ordinary member of this gathering, of this satsang. And when I was thinking about this topic over the last few weeks, there were so many thoughts that came in my mind, and they've all been shared here right now. And it made me think that actually we are all here for the experience. And it's not about words, it's about really putting it into our life. Many people will know, whilst also being a physicist, I like baking cakes. That's what physicists do in their part-time. And I made a cake once for a competition at work, and it didn't turn out very well. So I had to piece together all the broken parts, and I took this really heavy chocolate fudge icing that you get from a packet, and I spread it all over, and the cake was fixed. And then I watched a program on TV where they were trying to build this supercar, and they put in the best technology, all the latest thinking and research, and they built this amazing Formula One car. When they turned the engine, it wouldn't start. And then they realized that actually they had to look at the pistons in the engine. It just needed to be fixed. And once when you look at a bridge, when you build a big bridge, when I was learning this at university, they said that you never tighten all the bolts and you never measure out everything perfectly, there's always a tolerance. You always leave some give, because with the change in temperature, with the change in time, everything needs some time to adjust. But if the bridge is not strong enough, the tolerance won't fix it. You need another support. You need to strengthen the bridge with more beams or something which is really going to give it strength. And those of you who are accountants, you will know that when you come to balance the books at the end, sometimes if you're shortchanged, you need to give. And if there are a few pennies left over, they're left for the next period. But somehow we have to fix it. It needs to balance. It needs to add up. And today we've heard such a wonderful, I feel like a dried out sponge on the side that's been soaked in water today. And you know, such wonderful words. How do you put any commentary on any of that? That's why, as I said, you're here for the experience, and hopefully we can all take something back today. But as our brother, respected Vansji and Bobbyji and others, all the young saints have been phenomenal. The thoughts expressed, even though the theme is of tolerance, they've been about change. They've been about love, about compassion, about really understanding. And it's been a spiritual experience, whilst we've been talking about something that is quite relevant to society today. In fact, the reason I mentioned the cake and the bridge and the supercar and the accounting is because of two things. Read somewhere this very great American author, Helen Keller. She was the first deaf-blind person to receive a bachelor's award. And she said at the end of her study that the highest result of education is tolerance. And Voltaire, a person of mine close to the heart, great philosopher, scientist, he said that tolerance is a consequence of humanity. It's the first law of nature. Not that particles retain at rest and all this sort of stuff. No, first law of nature is that tolerance is a consequence of humanity. So if we look at the world today, and we look at society, we have lots of education, there is much knowledge, and we have, as we've heard, the Freedom Rights Act and political movements which are the basis for human rights in society. And we have such sophisticated technology, and we have sophisticated ways of working, and such an amazing environment, and political environment, professional environment, working environment, all these things, the way this world has been created, yet it's broken. And so the fix, like the icing on the cake, and the pistons in the engine, and the few pennies left at the end of the balance book, is tolerance. Oh, we've all got to be a little bit more tolerant, and then everything will work. Almost seems like the emperor's clothes. Will tolerance really fix everything? Tolerance is real. It is important, as our respected Vansji said. But he also mentioned something even more important. But others have said today in a subliminal way here. It's all about the perspective. It's all about where it comes from. I forget the world for a moment, moving into my own home. I have a lovely wife and a daughter who's 4 and one that's 5 coming on 16. If I sat at home and I said to them, look guys, we really need to be more tolerant, somehow I don't think that would really work. But if I said to them, we all love each other, let's just find a way to get along sometimes when there's ups and downs, suddenly everything makes sense. Because tolerance is a virtue. It's something that comes from love. Love is the real basis behind this. And that's why today, even though this is a discussion and a theme on tolerance and promoting that in society, everybody has echoed the same thing. It comes from something much deeper than tolerance. It comes from something which is love. And this love is the physical, emotional incarnation of of this true, of what spirituality really represents. If we're thinking about promoting tolerance in society, then today, just in this small hall, this is the real spirit of what we're trying to achieve. Peaceful coexistence and oneness in society. But through acceptance, through love as the foundation. Love as the foundation with something else beyond it and before it, as our brother said. The understanding and appreciation of who we really are and what is really within all of us and how this whole cake comes together with the icing on the top. And that's why in this passage from the Sampurdana of Darbani, this passage which reflects the words of wisdom of our spiritual masters, when you read it in a whole and you read it on there, it reflects everything that tolerance represents. But in the first two lines, Satguru very simply states the fact that those who behold and recognize the true essence in all things, they love all and they respect all. Tolerance becomes a virtue that flows from that love, from that recognition. And so when we say, coming back to those two great scholars, Helen Keller, who talked about education and tolerance being the result of that, and Voltaire, who said that, tolerance is, is a consequence of humanity. Then as I said, we have education in society. We have human rights movements and everything else to support this structure for humanity. What's missing is that education, the spirit of education, is not just knowledge, it's wisdom. The spirit of humanity is not simply just the movements and the framework for it, the legal or the political framework. It's this, the heart, the compassion, the understanding, the appreciation. I've been given an example recently about Google and how today there is so much knowledge available, it's unbelievable. Anyone and everyone is a doctor. When they search on Google, they get all their ailments and they're cured. But that doesn't make you a doctor. As a physicist, people state facts of physics to me all the time. They say, oh, did you know a neutron, quarks, and star, and all this sort of stuff? And I think, I never learned any of this stuff, but they know more because they Googled it. But that's knowledge. It's borrowed. It's not yours. You didn't earn it. Wisdom comes when you earn it. A doctor that spends his life treating patients, he doesn't look on Google. He can tell you as soon as you walk through the door what the problem is. Is it physical? Is it emotional? Is it something else? That's wisdom. Everything we have put into the infrastructure of society is mechanical. And that's why, although we've been trying to fix a very real problem, we must come back to the source, which is who we really are. And that's why everybody here has said, the question we must ask ourselves. It must begin with ourselves. As one great scientist said, the key to understanding the universe is yourself. Don't just look out at the stars, they're there to inspire you. The real universe is inside you. It's bigger than the one outside. But we like to point fingers. The real turmoil is inside. Sardi baldi dunya andar naam to thandak aayegi. That the world is boiling, he says, outside. Sardi baldi dunya, the world, the boiling, bubbling world. It's not the one outside, it's the one inside that we don't recognize. That's where the tolerance breaks down, not outside. It takes two to tango. We all must play our part. And so in the first couple of lines of this Shabad, of this passage, brings it all back to something meaningful, which is when you recognize and appreciate the real essence of why we're here, then tolerance arises from that. Please continue.
गुणगावन नित इससे एक दे इससे दाद दीदार करन इससे एक दे नाल जोड़ के बेड़ा जगत पार करन.
can't read the translation up top, but it should be something to the effect of that. Always in his memory, thinking and beholding him all at all times. The true disciples, inspired individuals, enlightened beings you may like to call them. They always think of him and they unite others with him as well, as we've heard today. And herein is a real subtle point of tolerance. Often people ask me, they say, when we talk about tolerance, the first question they always ask is, oh, but how long can you be tolerant for? And what's the limits? And that's where you understand that actually you haven't even started yet and you're already asking where the limit of tolerance is. That's the issue. First try. In a classroom, the teacher said to the students, I want you all to stand up and hold your hand up as high as you possibly can. So they all held their hand up. And then he said, now, are you all holding your hands up high? Yes, we are, sir. Okay, a little bit higher. So they all raised their hands. He said, you could all raise your hands higher. Even though I asked you the first time, raise them as high as you can. Because when the need arises, how long is the length of string? As long as you need it to be. Tie the knots, as our brother said. You need it to be longer, you'll find a way of making it longer. If more tolerance is required, it will come. Why? Because it's not because you have to do it, it's because you love. And there comes a second point of tolerance. Why? How long? By profession, I'm a change manager. And I've been doing it for 15, 20 years now. And all of the change management I learned, I've learned here. And I share it at work. I've been trained in lots of things as well, but I always learn it here. Change starts leading by example. Start from yourself. How does true change come? You cannot force anybody. I can't make you believe in this almighty power that everybody's been talking about here. That's for you to believe. I can't convince you, because I may convince you very forcibly and with fantastic arguments. But if I forced you into believing that, then one day your mind might change. But if I can inspire to think a different way and maybe something slightly outside the box, then you will convince yourself and you will realize from your own experience, and then you won't need any more convincing or unconvincing, because it's come from inside. The universe within has unlocked the doors to the universe outside. Change starts through you. So in my home as well, I learned so much change management with my kids and my wife. And I share that at work as well, without all the players. But the biggest thing is this: your patience will achieve more than your force. You tolerate something for a number of reasons. We've all been talking about tolerance. It's actually a very egotistical thing to say, I'll tolerate this. Why? Because it means you think you're right. I'll tolerate this, I'm right. I'll tolerate it, it's fine. Swami Vivekananda said, toleration is not enough. You have to accept. Because the ego comes and says, I will tolerate this for a little while, I'm right, I know what I'm talking about. And as our brothers have said today and people have said, it can all change with perspective. As soon as your perspective changes, the situation changes, suddenly the tolerance levels change. Because suddenly you realize actually somebody else may also have a valid point. You may not be right. Suddenly everything's changed. The cards are different. As they say, a gardener came to my house once, and on the shed we had a horseshoe. And I said to him, oh, you should turn that the other way around because it's upside down. It's supposed to be bad luck. He said, it doesn't matter. You only just turn your head around. It depends how you look at it. The perspective changed everything. You can change a situation by changing your attitude towards it. You can become more tolerant if you realize why. Tolerance isn't anything. It's the love that is everything. It makes you do everything. It gives you more patience. It gives you more tolerance. It gives you compassion. It makes you cry when you see things like neighbors. Why cry? But you do, because you feel the passion and the emotion. That's where it comes from. So, change. True change will only come when you are patient and when you are tolerant. We need tolerance in society, because if we really want to change, we have to be patient. And the world needs change at this moment in time. Just look at what's going on. It is very sad. But amongst that sadness, there is also goodness. There's real goodness. Look at what we've heard today. Look at the wonderful thing our kids tell us. They tell me, Daddy, you're getting fat now. They tell it as it is, but I love it when they say it. If my wife says it, that's different. I start worrying. Why? Because it's the perspective. So time has gone, as always. In the last 2 lines of this verse, these 2 lines of this passage, wonderful passage, tell us that they never give up. They carry on. They unite others with this because they wait. They let them go through their journey, their ups and downs. They tolerate. Not because it's ego. They tolerate because that's the word we have to use, but actually it's a compassion. It's a compassion they have, which others may interpret as tolerance, but for them it's not tolerance. It's compassion. It's understanding. It's love. And they unite.
Swas swas is iknu simran duja kade davanna ke avtar o pure gursik iknu kadi pulavanna.
This is not an ego thing here, that they only name the one and they only think of him and never think of others. It's about appreciation, that there is only one of all different forms, in all forms, in you, me, everywhere. The message to take from this line is they never get distracted. They never give up on this path. They continue to love. They continue to be tolerant. Please say with one loving voice, Sant
Nirankari. We will now have the final prayer from Vishalji from Bedford. As mentioned previously, if you would like more information, if you would like to know a little bit more about our organization and this God knowledge, this Gyan, please do, after the final prayer, after you've had lunch as well in the adjoining hall, please make your way to the conference room where you'll be able to share some further thoughts, any further questions you might have. Also, please do go and have a look in reception, the Universal Target that's available, full of wonderful articles, as well as the new literature that we've got in the publications store. And now the final prayer.
तेरी ओट सहारा तेरा तन मन खोल गुमावा कह अवतार तेरे ही दाता दिन राती गुण गावा तू ही निरंकार तू ही निरंकार तू ही निरंकार तू ही निरंकार मैं हाँ सदा पुलनहार मैं हाँ सदा पुलनहार तू है दाता बख्शनहार तू है दाता बख्शनहार मेरे अवगुण नाची तार मेरे अवगुण नाची तार तू ही निरंकार तू ही निरंकार तू ही निरंकार एक तू ही निरंकार तेरा रूप है ये संसार तेरा रूप है ये संसार सब दा भला करो करतार सब दा भला करो करतार मेरी मांग है दातार मेरी मांग है दातार तू ही निरंकार एक तू ही निरंकार तू ही निरंकार एक तू ही निरंकार मेरा डोल शरदा भगति प्यार
बख्शो शरदा भगति प्यार
करां मैं संतां दा सत्कार
करां मैं संतां दा सत्कार तू ही निरंकार एक तू ही निरंकार तू ही निरंकार एक तू ही निरंकार
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 एक तू ही निरंकार
तू ही निरंकार
एक तू ही निरंकार
सतगुरु बाबा हरदेव सिंह जी महाराज की
For those of you, members of the congregation that wish to do Namaskar, please do come forward. And otherwise, please do make your way into the adjoining hall for the langar, the community lunch.